I'm Terry Strongman at the Ron Q Amateur Rocket. Thank you for selecting this video on quality in daily living. Before I continue, if you have not yet subscribed to this channel, do it now. Activate the notification bell feature while you're at it now. Share the joy of the channel with others. One way to do that is to give this video a thumb up. So do that. And comment courteously below. Those are humble requests, stated humbly. Humbly as I can right now. Now, quality of life, daily living, quality. All right. I'm just going to go with an example from my own personal experience, because I don't know how else to do this. I was just telling this whole story to my wife. Something from my own life. Telling the story to my wife. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to kind of like repeat that story. Not all of its implications and its connections with what generated this to come out of my mouth to her. Just this one segment. And I'm going to provide it as an example because I can't think of a different one. At the moment, it's the one that made me think of making a video on this subject. Quality of daily living. Okay, so here's my account for the purpose of helping you understand what the heck I'm trying to get at. I was in the military. I was in the United States Navy. I was an enlisted man. If there are elite jobs for enlisted members of the United States Navy, active duty personnel in the United States Navy, if there are jobs that one is trained for, they're called rates, okay, that are considered the elite jobs for enlisted men in the United States Navy, the two that come to mind, the two that I think pretty much everybody would agree on, are fire controlman, or that'd be weapon firing person who fires the big guns and the missiles. And he is in charge of the systems. He knows the systems that do that. He knows all the electronics, all the circuitry, everything. He knows how to test it all. He knows how to repair it all. He knows how to make it keep working. He knows how to maintain it. He knows how to fire it. And that's what his job is. Okay. Weapon firing, or fire control. Not firefighting, fire control. Like the word fire, and then boom, right? Okay. He's in control of that. The other one is a nuclear technician. He's the guy in charge of the nuclear reactors, or nuclear-powered, say, submarines. Okay. Those are the two elite jobs. And if one of those is like number one, it would probably be the nuke tech. Okay. I was a weapon fire control. Okay. The schooling for it, there were 3 schools for a specific weapon system. You had to go through 3 schools after boot camp. Which, that and nuke tech, probably the most schooling of any of the rates before being able to hit the fleet and do your job. It was 2 years with, leave in between schools, boot camp, all that added in. That's up to about 2 years before you're going to go to the fleet to do your 4 years of active duty service in the fleet. So it's a 6-year enlistment, automatic. Because 2 years is going to be in school. Most of the other rates are significantly less time in school. Most of them are significantly less. You might be out to the fleet in 6 months. Might be out less, depending on your job and how much training is involved. So I went through basic electricity and electronics school after boot camp. It took about 12 weeks. It's a real weeding out school for one. It's also an introduction to electronic circuitry and electricity. which these weapon systems, for example, they're all electronically based, right? The electricity and the electronics are at the heart of how they run. Okay. And then there are the mechanics, the electromechanics and so forth, but you got to understand your electricity and your electronics just to get started. Okay. But that school was a real rigorous one. It was not set up for people to make it through very easily at all. There'd be less people graduating that school than there were who started it, and they would be thrown out. They'd be dropped out down to some of the lowest grades and sent pretty much straight to the fleet to do something entirely different than what they were supposed to be doing, because they did not make it through the school. It's a selection process, all right? Those in charge of the school, those in charge, like the so-called teachers, they didn't teach anything. They could select who made it through and who didn't, really, depending on what they thought of you. That was one of their jobs. That was their main job, it seemed like, anyway. Okay, I made it through. I did well. In fact, I did so well that I got my choice of next thing that would happen. I got my choice of something. Like where my home port would be, something. Okay. But I always ended up through these schools getting my choice of the next thing. Because I did well academically. But that's not the point here. The next school was 6 months long. That's called FC, or Fire Controlman A School. That's the school that all weapon fire controlmen, no matter what their weapon system is going to be, must go through, because it's general weapon system stuff. Electromechanic principles. More circuitry, analog circuitry, digital circuitry, more detailed radar systems, general radar systems, general gun systems, general this, general that. Okay. And then the third school, another 6 months, a specific weapon system. Mine was called the Phalanx, also called the Mark something or other, Mark some number, I can't remember. Also called the CIWS, which is spelled CIWS, which means close-in weapon system. So it was the Mark 4 to Mark 15 or something like that. Close-in weapon system, or the Phalanx. Okay. That was 6 months. That was a specific weapon system. I chose that from the prior school, the A school. I also had my choice of port, and I was chosen as a plank owner of a brand new ship, an Aegis class cruiser. Was still in the shipyard in Pascagoula, Mississippi. I was in San Diego, my home port, that I had chosen because I was top of my class in one of those prior classes. Okay. So I had my choice of weapon system and my choice of port. Now, in that A school, one of the criteria for getting your choice of weapon system, in other words, being top of your class, was not only being academically superb in performance, but also was based on your your military bearing. The two main ways to determine your military bearing. In other words, just how good of a sailor are you? How good of a military man are you? Were your uniform inspections and your barracks inspections. These tell a lot about you, because these schools are rigorous. Classes are 6 hours a day. They cram this shit down your throat. Okay. And it's a very kind of like boot camp environment still. Kind of like boot camp without all the boot camp. You have to march to chow. You get uniform inspected. It's like you got to do things right. It's not like being out on the fleet. You're in school. There's still a boot camp feel to it. It's all part of your training. Okay. All right. Well, out of A school, to get the choice of orders, I took them very seriously, what they said in the first week of A school. We're going to be watching your military bearing. We're going to be watching your uniforms. You're going to get a lot of uniform inspections. You're probably not going to know when they're going to happen. They might happen in the middle of the day, in the middle of class. You're called out into the passageway in the school here, or the hall, okay, the passage, and line up, and you'll have a uniform inspection. And we're going to be paying attention. Your scores on your uniform inspections are going to be part of how well you've done in this school. Well, most guys they didn't believe this. Because there's some bullshit that goes around about stuff too. Like, hey, you want to get you want to be based on the West Coast because that's where your family is. Tell them you want to be based on the West Coast. Put in for the West Coast. Well, anybody who's been in the military, at least the Navy, knows it doesn't work like that. You ask for the West Coast, you're going to get the East Coast. So, yeah, put in your request. That's kind of bullshit. All right. Well, most guys in A school thought, oh, that's bullshit. Why would they consider my performance in the school? Why would my uniform, how my uniform was? I'm not in the fleet. This is just school. Why would my uniform have anything to do with their determination of how well I did in A school? I took it seriously. I didn't know if they were serious, but I took it that way just in case. So, I want you to listen closely now, because here's the heart of my example from my own life. I always wore a perfect uniform. Always. Now, A school was at a Naval Training Command in Great Lakes, Illinois. Great Lakes, Illinois is not really a town. It's a Naval Training Center place. That's the location in Illinois where it is. Great Lakes. The Naval Training Command is on the south shore of Lake Michigan. And when I say on the shore, my barracks was about 100 feet from the shore, from the coast of Lake Michigan. Very rocky. You can't swim there. It's not, it's not that kind of, it's no beach, right? Okay, it's just like a very rough shoreline, coastline. Well, not the coast of the country, it's a shoreline, right? In the winter, 6 months in the winter. The north wind, the Arctic wind, blows straight across it, picks up speed, and brings the Arctic temperatures straight to that spot. It gets windy, it gets nasty. When snow falls, it falls. I mean, it's just nasty. Nobody likes to be there. It's not a preferred place to be in the Navy. It's not a preferred base. It's not a preferred Naval Training Center, command, that is. It's not preferred anything. And people are generally not in great spirits there. Especially the people who are doing, that's a tour of duty for them. Like to be an instructor in one of the schools, for God's sakes. I mean, it's like a punishment. All right. The temperatures dropped to, some 30 below zero for 2 weeks. With a wind chill that, at its worst, the wind chill temperature was 76 below zero. Right around 76, it hovered for almost that entire 2-week period. Okay. Nobody wanted to be there. No matter what, It did not matter what day of the week or what time of day or what was going on before or after the moment, but every time my uniform was inspected or even stared at by anybody who had anything to do with evaluating my performance in that school, my uniform was perfect all the time. I could have just come back from chow in a windstorm, walked in the building, had my uniform checked out, looked at, noted, noticed, or inspected. There wouldn't be a speck of dust on my shoes. In the welt of my soles, there would be no speck of dust, ever. My shirts were always tucked in perfectly. More perfectly than we were taught to do it in boot camp. You see here, this shirt, for example. It's not wrinkled where it's tucked in. There are no wrinkles. It's not like folded over itself or anything, right? It's stretched tight around. As tight as a shirt like this can be. I did this a moment ago while telling my wife, well, this is not a shirt like what is worn in the military. But you may see that back here I have attempted to make two pleats. Right? I can stick my thumbs in there, right? Okay? That's how the shirt is stretched tight. Back to there, and all the slack goes into those two pleats. All right? There are ways to cheat to do this. Hell, there are some Marines. They have a kind of like suspenders that connect to the bottoms of the shirt and go down like under your feet and back up the other side. They're invisible from the outside, but they keep your shirt pulled down, you know, nice and tight and all the time. So all you have to do is like wrap it around, put these pleats in, and then connect it, and it's always like, whew, looks perfect all the damn time. But it's not, because they didn't do that. Their suspenders did it. They did it like in the morning when they got dressed. And then they put that shit on to keep it like that. I didn't wear them. I didn't even know about them. Let the Marines look the way they want to look and however they want to get that way. Fine. I wasn't a Marine. I was a sailor. My uniform always was perfect. There was never a wrinkle in my shirt from sitting against it because I would always grab it, right? Make sure it's just right, flat against the seat, and that's how I'd sit. So that when I stood up, it would look freshly pressed. Ha! Short sleeve shirt, button up shirt, right? I'm in class. Right? Short sleeve shirt, right? There's supposed to be a crease. From there to there, a crease. Okay. Most guys, you can see that there was a crease. That maybe when they bought the shirt, they put some starch on it. At that spot, you know, they like made it nice, right? Like laid it on the ironing board, sprayed starch on it. Okay, now there's a crease. But they don't iron it too much for the rest of the shirt's life. Or maybe they do a little steam after they wash it. Or they send it out to have it laundered outside, you know, at a uniform shop across the street where the Vietnamese people work. Something like that. You know, they have it done for them because they don't know how to do it right. You know, oh, let them do it. They're the people who know how to do that shit. No. That wasn't for me. No. For everyday shirt wear, I had two prepared, ready for the day. Not just one. I had a backup. Both in perfect shape. And when it comes to just what I mean by perfect shape, just talk about this crease. This crease, right? I'd stay up at night and go into the laundry room in the barracks when other people were getting sleep, right? I'd be in there working on my uniform for the next day. 2 of each thing, right? 2 pair of shoes, 2 pants, 2 shirts, 2 of everything, right? 2 of everything. Let's just say this crease. So I've got 2 shirts, 2 short sleeve shirts. I've got 4 creases. Just that crease. There are other creases. Just talk about this little one. To make right. Now here's how I would do it. Lay that thing on there. I know the crease line because I can see it. You can't get rid of it. But I'm going to make sure that nobody misses mine. All right? Lay it on the ironing board. Get out the can of starch. Right? Steam iron. Press that thing. I mean press. When they say press, I pressed. Right? And move it. Like that. I spent time on just that one. But I had 3 more to go for 2 shirts, right? That's just that crease. I put time into this shit because I took them seriously. And I wanted to be at least a little better than the next best guy with just this one thing in school. Just this one thing. Now, I had some reasons for this. One of them was, I liked this shit. This was something to do, man. Something that I could do really well by just doing it well, right? Number 2, I did not like the military at all. Military bearing. I didn't have any. I didn't give a shit about military bearing. I didn't like the military. I went in for some reasons that most people don't go in for. It wasn't to run away from the law. No. I went in there for some personal reasons that somebody turned me on to. The night before I walked to Times Square in New York City into the recruiting station at Times Square in New York City and enlisted. The day before that, it had not been on my mind. No. What had been on my mind was, war sucks, the military's stupid, I'm a peace-loving hippie. Love and peace, man. Peace and love. Military, fuck that. Military bearing. You see, I didn't like them yahoos in the military yelling at people. People younger than I am. I went in when I was 28 years old. And 19-year-olds in there. A little above me, in, rank, let's say, if you want to call it that. Telling me what to do. And if I didn't do it like they liked, or just because they're too young to be able to handle a position of authority, however piddly-ass it is, they know that if they have some authority over you, and they got a fucking ego problem, they can take it out on you, man. Yell at you, call you this, call you that, tell you to do it again, tell you to stand on your head. And what are you going to do about it? You can't just say, oh, I quit. Or, that's no way to talk to me. There's none of that. This is the damn military. You got severe penalties for shit like that, including like Fort Leavenworth. Stuff that you learned you don't want to get involved with, like you might have heard about in boot camp, and which you might have seen happen to some people. Stuff that really fucking hurts, man. Like maybe stand out all night on a very cold night, while somebody else is staying up all night just to torture your ass with a fire hose blasting at you from about 40 feet away. All night! Running in place with an old World War II rifle, the barrel of which has been filled with lead, held over your head. All night! Non-stop! In the cold. Freezing. Because you said, I don't feel like it. when some 19-year-old schmuck said, "Do it again. I don't like the way it looks," when you did it just fine the first time. So you don't do that shit. Well, I did not like this. You get my drift? I didn't like it. I wanted to punch these assholes in the face. So I prevented that whole scenario by doing everything perfectly. I gave them no reason to talk to me that way. Sometimes they still would, because they could. I had to learn to suck that up, but it generally did not happen. Let me give you an example of when somebody found the way to do it anyway, having to do with my uniforms. Okay, so look, here I go to school, right? I get into class, I take off my jacket or my coat, whatever it is, pea coat, whatever. Right? Get into class, take off my coat. Or maybe it's a nice warm day, no coat worn. Just go to class, march to class. Right? I'd be the guy who not only had traces of a crease having been there, or being there, or just ironed it a bit, right? To give it a little edge for an hour or two in the day. I'd be the guy. That crease was like a folded piece of paper all day. Looked like this. That crease looked like this. Boom! Sticking out. Boom! You know what I mean? All day. It couldn't be any other way, the way I did this shit. I mean, I whipped it into that shape. It couldn't change. And I had a backup shirt just like it. In case I happened to get run over by a car and it screwed my shirt up, I could run home and put on my other one and nobody would know I did it. Run back to the barracks, during a break or during chow. That's the way I did it. I did that with everything. All my uniform, everything. All the time. I wouldn't even need a uniform inspection. I could be just like in class or standing in the ranks in the passageway ready to march chow or something, right? And here'd come, chief of the command or chief of the school or, my LPO, my leading petty officers. And they'd be like looking, talking to each other. These guys look like shit today. Sigmund! That was my last name, right? Sigmund! Step over. I step over. The guy looking at me. The fuck's wrong with you, Sigmund? I know what he's getting at. He's joking, right? But he's serious at the same time. He's looking at my damn sleeve. He looks at that thing. What the fuck do you do? What? Touch that. And then it act like it cut their finger. Like, let me just touch that thing, man. Ah, shit, man. How do you do that all the time? You've been in class here for 5 hours and it still looks like that. That's the way it looked when you walked in. Go to chow. I would think these guys are noticing my uniform. Some of my classmates and cohorts and colleagues would say, I don't know why you put all this time into that shit. It doesn't mean anything. And I said, well, they said it did. And they said, yeah, well, you're gullible. Well, you know what? They were serious. Not the classmates. The people who said this matters, they were serious. And they were noticing. And I made sure of it. I had the best uniforms, maybe, in the fucking Navy. I don't know. But Here's how desperate they were to find a hit off on my uniform inspections. The only hit off I ever got on any uniform inspection in the Navy was one day, standing outside in a dusty area. Like, there would be grass there, except not any ground or something, or it was worn off. Okay. All standing there in ranks. I'm there. It's a formal uniform inspection. I don't know whether we knew it was coming or not, but anyway, there I am. There was not a speck of dust on my shoes. There was not a speck of dust in the welts, but it was a dusty area. Other people had dust. I didn't, because I made sure of it. Just as the uniform inspection was about to commence, I made damn sure I had the way to do that. All right? Like in my pocket or whatever. Like a toothbrush. All around the top of the sole, the welt. Get that dust out of there, that fresh dust. And I'd have so much polish, so well worked in, spit shined in, that it was like glass. And all I had to do was just, and anything there that was just sitting on the surface would just go bye-bye and drift away. So there I am, perfect jig line, all the way down, straight line, everything lined up just right. Always. Always. Shirt looked like I just put it on perfectly with the Marine Corps strap. No, better than that. No tricks. No tricks. Better than that. Better than that. These creases, not a wrinkle, nothing. Perfect shave, perfect hair, hat on perfectly. And here comes the guy doing the inspection. An officer, right? And he's got the guy with him who writes down his notes, his results, like 4.0, 3.8, dust on shoe, blah, blah, blah. Get to me. I had never seen this guy before. I don't think he'd ever seen me. But he looks at me and looks at my name on my shirt. He says, Sigmund. Yes, sir. I've heard about you. Yes, sir. Let me see. Let me get this up real close. Checks to make sure that I didn't miss any little hairs right here when I shaved. Look up in here. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All the way down. Up real close, man. He's going to find something. You can't have a perfect sailor. That means there's no room for improvement. You just can't have that shit. But he heard about me. This guy's going to find something. He's going to give me the blemish in my record. Gets down there to the welts of his shoes. Down there looking at him. Like rubbing his ear on the ground, looking at me. Mm-hmm. Comes back up. Looks me in the eye. Starts to shake his head a little bit. And his face lit up. He looked down at my collar. And he said, there it is! Fly in the collar! I'll be damned. Just as he stood up, a fly hadn't flown over and landed on my collar and then flew back off. And he saw it. That was my hit. He found one. Damn right. That's all they ever had against me. That's it. I didn't give them any reason to yell at me. I didn't like the military. I had no military bearing. They didn't know that. I had raised the quality of my performance to its highest. And I liked it. Just for its own sake. I felt good. I liked having that crease right there. But nobody else even knew how I got. Who would imagine some guy going through A school in Great Lakes, Illinois, spending a half hour on one crease that's only this long? Every time he's going to put the shirt on after getting it out of the dryer. Every time. Just because they said, we might be taking it to be important that you have a good-looking uniform through school. Now, what's this all mean to you? Well, it's my example from my own life because I couldn't think of a better one offhand. And I was just telling it to my wife. And I thought, I'll make a video. This will be my example of how to maybe it'll be motivational for you, inspirational, descriptive, anything along these lines that might make you feel inspired to improve the quality of your existence on this planet a little more than you would have been thinking about an hour ago. Okay? That's all. That's all I'm doing. That's all I'm doing. Or, if you take it on your own now, to take this one step further, all by your little lonesome over there in Etherland, to maybe apply such thinking to your work in personal involvement. Personal betterment. Becoming more than what you are right now. Becoming more of the good stuff. All right? Your movement toward your selfhood. Self-mastery. Mastery of self by self. Mental discipline. Maybe something along these lines. Apply this kind of thinking. You'll like yourself for it. And others are going to notice. And it may inspire them to do the same. And for God's sakes, if we're lucky, it'll take off like a domino effect. And next year, the world will be a better place. Subscribe to the channel. Give the video a thumb up. Activate the notification bell feature. Give the video a thumb up. Give the video a thumb up. And give the video a thumb up. Comment courteously below. Give the video a thumb up. Share the joy of the channel with others. Give the video a thumb up. This is Theron Q. Ramacharaka, and I'm Turk Strong Man. Who are you? Whither bound? Be well.